We have been sold a lie. We've been told that the heavy, paralyzing weight you feel every morning is a defect, a broken gear in your machine that needs to be fixed or hidden away. But what if your exhaustion isn't a sign of weakness, but a profound spiritual protest? What if the reason you can't just get over is because your soul is refusing to live a life that no longer fits? Most people spend their lives running from the shadow, not realizing that the faster you run, the longer the shadow grows. Tonight, we stop running. We are going to deconstruct the architecture of your pain using modern psychology and ancient wisdom to show you that you aren't falling apart. You are being broken open for a version of yourself you haven't met yet. If you felt like you're drowning in a world that's telling you to just keep swimming, this is the air you've been looking for. What if I told you that the heavy, suffocating weight you've been carrying isn't a sign that you are broken, but a signal that your soul is trying to communicate something your conscious mind isn't yet ready to hear? We live in a culture obsessed with the highlight reel, a world that demands constant productivity and perpetual happiness, which makes the descent into darkness feel like a personal failure rather than a human experience. But have you ever paused to ask why your mind chooses to shut down when the world expects you to show up? Before we dive deep into the architecture of healing, it is vital to acknowledge that while we are exploring these psychological and spiritual frameworks for growth, this journey is not a substitute for professional clinical support. If you are in a crisis where the weight feels too heavy to carry alone, reaching out to a therapist or a crisis line is the highest form of self-awareness and strength you can show. When we talk about depression, we are often talking about what Carl Jung called the shadow self, those rejected, unloved parts of our psyche that we've pushed into the basement of our consciousness. We spend so much energy trying to outrun our shadows, trying to fix our sadness as if it were a broken machine. But the more we resist the dark, the more power it gains over our light. Modern psychology tells us that suppression is the fuel of suffering, while ancient mindfulness teaches us that observation is the beginning of liberation. You are not your depression. You are the one experiencing it. And there is a profound, life-altering difference between saying, "I am depressed," and "I am noticing a feeling of depression passing through me." We are going to deconstruct the myths of getting over and instead learn how to walk through it, moving from a state of being a victim of your biology to becoming the conscious architect of your internal world. Your pain is not a dead end. It is a redirection toward a version of yourself that is more integrated, more resilient, and more deeply connected to the truth of your existence. You cannot heal what you refuse to look at. And today, we stop running and start observing. Imagine you are walking through a vast, silent art gallery. On the walls are various canvases. Some are vibrant landscapes of joy. Others are chaotic sketches of anxiety. And some are deep, heavy, monochromatic portraits of apathy and sadness. As you move from one painting to the next, do you become the art? When you stand before a painting of a storm, do you get wet? You are the curator. You are the witness. This is the first and most fundamental shift we must make in our journey toward healing, the transition from identity to observation. In our modern world, we have fallen into a linguistic trap that creates a psychological prison. We say, "I am depressed," or I am broken. But when you say I am, you are making a totalizing statement about your entire existence. You are fusing your soul, your potential, and your future with a temporary state of being. Ancient mindfulness and modern metacognitive therapy both teach us that the I is the sky and the emotions are just the weather. The sky doesn't try to fix the storm, nor does the sky become the storm. It simply provides the space for the clouds to pass through, knowing that its own blue vastness remains untouched behind the gray. When you feel that familiar heaviness descending, I want you to step into the role of the museum curator. Instead of drowning in the emotion, step back and look at it. Observe the texture of it. Ask yourself, where is this sitting in my body right now? Is it a tightness in my throat? A weight on my chest? By labeling the experience as I am noticing a feeling of heaviness, rather than I am heavy, you create a microscopic gap of awareness. In that gap, your freedom is born. You are no longer the victim of a chemical storm. You are the consciousness observing the storm. This doesn't mean the pain vanishes instantly, but it means the pain no longer has the power to define who you are. You are the stillness that holds the movement, the silence that hears the noise, and the curator who decides that while a dark painting may be on the wall today, it is not the only piece in your collection. You are the space in which everything happens, not the things that happen within you. Now that we've established the distance between your soul and your suffering through the lens of the curator, we have to address the hard reality of your biology, because you cannot simply think your way out of a chemical deficit. Have you ever wondered why, when you're at your lowest, the advice to just go for a run or start a new hobby feels not just exhausting but physically impossible? There is a biological reason for this. When your brain is in a depressive state, your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for decision-making and future planning, is essentially underpowered, while your amygdala is sounding a constant alarm of perceived threat. In this state, your brain views big changes as a threat to its remaining energy reserves. This is why grand resolutions fail and leave you feeling more defeated than before. To heal, we have to stop asking for a revolution and start providing a micro-anchor. A micro-anchor is a non-negotiable 60-second ritual that serves as a physiological signal to your nervous system that you are safe and in control. Whether it is the act of drinking a full glass of water the moment you wake up, or spending exactly 1 minute feeling the texture of the floor beneath your feet, these tiny victories are the only way to bypass the brain's threat detection system. From a neurochemical perspective, you are triggering a micro-release of dopamine. Not the cheap dopamine of social media, but the achievement dopamine that comes from honoring a promise to yourself. This builds a foundation of self-efficacy. When you complete a 60-second micro-anchor, you are telling your biology that the environment is stable enough for growth. Over time, these anchors create a serotonin scaffold, providing the structural support your brain needs to eventually handle larger shifts. We often wait for motivation to arrive before we take action. But in the architecture of the mind, action is actually the prerequisite for motivation. You don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to prove to your brain, 60 seconds at a time, that you are still the captain of the ship. Your biology responds to consistency, not intensity, and your recovery begins not with a giant leap, but with the courage to master the smallest possible moment. If you can control 1 minute, you can eventually reclaim your life. But even as we master our internal biology and our role as the curator, there is a shadow that depression casts over our relationships, the instinct to retreat into the cave of isolation. Depression is a master of deception. It whispers that you are a burden, that your darkness is contagious, and that the kindest thing you can do for those you love is to disappear until you are better. But this is the heart of the vulnerability paradox. The very thing you are most afraid to show is the only bridge that leads back to your healing. In modern psychology, we study a concept called co-regulation, the scientific reality that our nervous systems are not closed loops. We are biologically wired to find balance and calm through the presence and emotional resonance of other human beings. You were never meant to process a psychological storm of this magnitude in a vacuum. The mistake we often make is believing we need to have the right words before we reach out. We wait until we can explain our pain perfectly, but when you are in the depths, language often fails you. I want you to give yourself permission to communicate without a script. I want you to go to a partner, a friend, or a mentor and simply say, I don't have the words right now, but I am struggling, and I just need to not be alone. This isn't asking someone to fix you. It is inviting them to sit in the cave with you until your eyes adjust to the light. When you allow someone to see your unpolished, hurting self, you aren't being a burden. You are giving them the profound gift of true intimacy. You are allowing them the sacred honor of being a sanctuary. We often think that by hiding our pain, we are protecting our relationships. But in reality, we are starving them of the honesty they require to survive. Healing is a collaborative art form. It is the recognition that while no one else can do the internal work for you, you cannot do that work entirely by yourself. The strength of a bond is not measured by how much joy you share, but by how much darkness you are willing to navigate together. Your vulnerability isn't a crack in the foundation, it is the light by which you find your way home. Isolation is the oxygen of depression, but connection is its antidote. Trust the people who love you enough to let them see the parts of you that you haven't learned to love yet. What if the very darkness you've been fighting is not a monster to be slain, but a reservoir of unspent power waiting to be channeled into your greatest work? Think back to the shadow self we spoke of at the start. Most people spend their entire lives trying to lock that shadow in a dark room, not realizing that the immense psychological effort it takes to keep that door closed is the very energy they need to build their dreams. Modern psychology identifies a phenomenon known as post-traumatic growth, which suggests that individuals don't just bounce back from a crisis. They bounce forward into a higher level of functioning, a deeper sense of empathy, and a redefined sense of meaning. This is the moment where we move from surviving to integrating. Your depression, as heavy as it feels, is often a compass pointing toward the gaps in your life where your true purpose or your Dharma has been neglected. In ancient wisdom, it is said that the medicine is found where the pain is most acute. When you are in the depths, the question, why is this happening to me, feels like a dead end that keeps you trapped in the past. But when you shift that question to, what is this calling me toward, you begin to harvest the energy of your shadow. You are currently earning a degree in a subject most people are too afraid to study, which makes you uniquely qualified to serve others who are lost in the same woods. This is the ultimate biological and spiritual hack for self-healing. When you turn your struggle into a mission, the pain doesn't just vanish. It transforms into fuel. You begin to see that your sensitivity is not a weakness, but a refined radar for truth. Your history of heaviness is not a burden, but the foundation of a strength that is unshakable. Integrating your shadow means acknowledging that your darkest days have given you a rare depth of character and a profound perspective that ease could never provide. You are not a victim of your internal chemistry. You are the alchemist of your soul, capable of turning the lead of your lowest moments into the gold of your highest calling. Your struggle is not a detour on your path. It is the very forge that is tempering your spirit for a life of unprecedented impact. As we bring these threads together, I want you to realize that you are not the same person who began watching this video 25 minutes ago. You have shifted your perspective from being the victim of the storm to being the stillness of the sky. We have traveled from the internal observation of the museum curator to the biological precision of micro anchors, through the courage of the vulnerability paradox, and finally into the alchemical power of shadow integration. But all the wisdom in the world is an intellectual luxury if it never reaches your hands. Healing is not a destination you arrive at. It is a rhythm you cultivate. It is a series of tiny, brave decisions made in the quiet moments when no one is watching. I want us to build something together right here, in this moment. I mentioned earlier that isolation is the oxygen of depression, so let's collectively starve it of its air. I want you to pause and identify your one micro anchor, that 60-second, non-negotiable ritual you will commit to for the next 24 hours to prove to your brain that you are the captain of the ship. Maybe it's a minute of deep breathing before you touch your phone, or simply stepping outside to feel the air on your skin. Whatever it is, I want you to write it in the comments below. By sharing it, you are stepping out of the cave of isolation and into a global community of people who are navigating the same terrain. Your comment isn't just a post. It's a signifier for Simadar. It is the first step toward transforming your personal pain into a shared purpose. Remember, the darkness does not exist to swallow you. It exists to show you how brightly you can burn. You are not a masterpiece in progress. You are the masterpiece itself, occasionally covered by the dust of a difficult season. The weight you feel isn't the weight of failure. It's the weight of the strength you are currently building. Don't wait for the sun to rise to start walking. Start walking, and your movement will bring the dawn. Your life is not defined by the depths of your valleys, but by the quiet power of the soul that continues to climb through them. Healing is not about becoming someone new. It is about finally having the courage to be who you have always been.